we finished off 2021 with so much energy on how and when Africa should transit into a new horizon of 100% clean energy on the continent with the rest of the world. But as we usher in a new year, 2022, how much of 2021 energy market playbook is still at play for Africa? What needs to change and how? Welcome my guests, the executive chairman of the African Energy Chamber, and the man I call the gadfly of the African energy industry, NJ Ayuk. Great to see you again, my friend. Good evening from Johannesburg.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy your holiday. I know you've been moving around. We're going to talk about that. Despite the holiday season, I'm not sure you had any much rest from November's the Energy Week in Durban. But let's talk about some good news that we can harvest from that Africa energy market in the immediate past year, 2021.
I think, before I start with some good news, I even got greater news. Today, OPEC announced the new Secretary General, Hatem Al-Ghaz, replacing a great African, great Nigerian Secretary, Mohamed Sanusi Bakindo, that has served the oil markets very well, served Africa and OPEC with integrity, and the world has been so lucky to have him. He brought in non-OPEC countries, Russia, Mexico, to work together with OPEC under his tenure. This great Nigerian, this great African brought in 3 African countries, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Congo, to join the OPEC, and has led with distinction. Isn't this so beautiful that we had an African on the world stage negotiating with Putin? Even when President Trump was kidding hard on OPEC, he maintained his calm and find solutions around the oil price war. That is amazing news. God bless you, Secretary Bakindo, and God bless Nigeria for producing this eminent son to serve the world and serve Africa. More good news. We are seeing from last year a big surge where you get the coral from ENI in Mozambique, Africa's 3rd floating LNG project. Most people thought it was going to be a disaster. It turned out to be a bonanza. And that coral is being launched this weekend. It's going to be big. Nigeria passed the Petroleum Industry Act, and it was 20 years late, but it's done. It's right now. We need to push forward on it to attract more investment and rally around there. And then you also see Senegal moving very strong with the SNE project and the Sangoma projects. But what the most important thing we could take out of 2021 is that the oil and gas industry in Africa is resilient. We have what we call resilient hydrocarbons, and that is really what came out of 2021 for Africa.
In terms of 1 or 2 defining issues for the African market last year, we went to COP26. What were the outcome of that? If we tie that together to the African Energy Week, which was held in Durban last November, what for you were the few headlines, 1, 2, 3, that we are onboarding?
I would say COP26 was big. I would also say the force majeure in Mozambique by Total was big, but also the Petroleum Industry Act in Nigeria was big. It got passed, it got signed, it got into law. But let me take it a little bit further. Uganda, they had delayed so much on getting to FID. You are seeing that project happening with the Kingfisher. And Tanzania, where everybody thought that gas was out of reach, it is going back there. They were defining moment. But again, Africa Energy Week was the most amazing defining moment where we stood together as an industry, stood together as Africa, and we drove this industry forward. $25 billion of deals kicked out of Africa Energy Week for Africa. And these were Africans and IOCs and NOCs doing business together and grabbing things and pushing forward. That's why everybody's saying we got to do it again, and we will develop this and push forward. But, we got to get ready for COP27. It is here in Africa, and we need to push really strong on this divestment campaign that is really hitting the industry and hitting Africa. But we got to also do our own part, cut taxes, make it easy to do business, and really drive the industry forward.
Do you think that the net zero emission was a major issue on the front burner of the African energy market last year?
It was a major issue. It was a game changer. We saw a lot of projects got slowed to kick off. We saw drilling, we were looking at about 245 wells being drilled in Africa every year. It dropped big time. We saw very low, high impact wells drilled, exploration almost stopped. Not just because of COVID, just because there was no money going in. We saw a sweeping wave of renewables advocacy coming in, but there was no money to back renewables. The prices skyrocketed. Everyday Africans took a hit with energy jobs, but they pick it back up. So these defining issues have to, we got to separate facts from fiction and really get to really doing that which it means. 600 million people with no access to electricity, 900 no access to clean cooking, most of them women. And we cannot at this time hold back. That's why we at the African Energy Chamber says we got to make energy poverty history. This is more important as it goes side by side with this climate change discussion. But it is also up to us to drive those exploration. You just showed right there where the market stands. The price somewhere around $78. We cannot give up almost 150 billion barrels of petrol that has not yet been produced. There's so much gas that is still there, and we'll do that because we want Greta and some nice babies in Europe to be happy. That's not what being African means.
We have a whole lot more to chat to after the break, Ayuk, including your outlook on the new year 2022. Stand by, everyone. We'll be right back in two. All right, welcome back to our Rice Exchange. I am Bosin Omofai, the Executive Chairman of the African Energy Chamber. NG Ayuk spent most of his year in 2021 holidays traveling across Africa and Europe, holding talks around the continent's energy industry and the way forward. Ayuk is live with me tonight on the show from Johannesburg. Let's continue the conversation, my friend. We have quite a few unfinished business of the energy market for Africa in 2021 that we're onboarding into the new year. What do you think should be our key focus in the new year?
Big part of this new year that we have to go in, we have to be a focus on finance and also our work around decarbonization. But, a lot of Africa has not been carbonized. We're under 4%. So I don't know what we want to decarbonize. We need to produce more oil. We need to drill more wells. We need to do more deals. But finance is the big things. As you see, some of the IOCs are moving away from Africa. They're divesting. Western groups are cutting funding that is going into fossil fuels. We need to create a financial vehicles and financial banks within Africa to finance our energy markets, our fossil fuels, so we can generate and give hope to everyday Africans and drill some of those high impact wells and also take on some of marginal fields and also work on power projects, but also embrace renewables. But Africa has to do that rather than us begging and waiting for foreign aid. So we've established that we're going to be working with various African financial institutions, really smart people from the private sector to drive that. And we've been in touch with a lot of them. That is going to be the focus on finance and focus on really beating back this divestment. But we're going to have an African green dialogue. And that green dialogue is saying we're going to have an African position that we're going to take into COP27 in Egypt. We are not going to go into COP27 in Egypt and not have a seat at the table. Because if you're not on the table, you're going to be on the menu. And that's not where we want to be.
Well, COP27 taking place in Egypt is on the African continent. So that's good news. But your recent engagements with the African energy producing states and the European community, what are you learning? What's new?
What is new, which is really brilliant news, but we're cautiously optimistic. The European Commission and the European Union is going to make gas is going to be known as green energy. So same way you look at solar, same way you look at nuclear, same way you look at wind, gas is going to be counted as that. What does that mean to the everyday African? What does that mean to African producers? We can take a country like Nigeria, abundant gas, more than 200 TCF of gas. Now, all the financing has been blocked because it's been termed as fossil fuels and nobody wants to touch it. You'll be able to get development banks coming in because it is seen as green energy. Something we've always told them. I should have, I rather than say I told you so, but this is something that we need to embrace. It has been a lot of discussion, but I want to give the Europeans credit. They have had very strong discussions with the chamber. We've been vocal critics of their policies, but we kept these backroom channels open. I jumped into Brussels many times without many people knowing, into Vienna to get great advice, into Berlin, thanks to Gunther Nuke for always being there. That's Angela Merkel's special representative to Africa. We kept that conversation and they listened and he got a deal done. And I think this is what is really beautiful about this, is that we got a deal done and I was able to make it home on the 31st and my wife still loved me.
Interesting. I'm sure you've got to have some energy left with your wife loving you on December the 31st. Well, don't tell me about that, what went behind in the other room. But let's talk about, I'm just borrowing the phrase, what happened in the other room. But what happened in the energy room for the African Green Energy Summit coming through this year is what I'm interested in. What would be the key chief focus here? What are we driving at? Are we looking at investment capital? Are we looking at mobilizing domestic? Are we looking at new funds, new programs, new packages that should come across Africa? Are you seeing the interest that this is where everyone will want to go, despite still digging for fossil fuel?
We need an energy mix. We need to have various forms of energy. We at the chamber, we're not against any form of energy. We just against somebody deciding to ban one form of energy. Our green energy dialogue that came out of a suggestion from OPEC president Bruno Etua, the minister of Congo. He really pushed me on it together with the Americans and together with the Germans and a lot of Africans. We're saying we're going to have a conversation of what green means. We're going to define what is African green. We don't want somebody else to define what African green is. So what does that mean? We're going to embrace hydrogen. If you look at countries like Namibia, South Africa, Niger, Mali, Senegal, the Gambia, even Nigeria, you have great hydrogen potential. But we are also not just going to stick with green hydrogen. We're going to look at blue hydrogen that comes out of gas and look at using that. But we're also going to really see how, if we are going to embrace solar and wind and different things, we have to ensure that there's funding and financing that goes into African companies, especially African women. Black women are still the last hired and the first fired in the energy sector. We have to gear programs towards African women and all of that. And I think this is already so beautiful with what we started with this green dialogue, that a London company called Hive Group established an African energy summit. So it's, they say imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So that's good. So we're starting a chorus, but we want to make sure that we finance our future. We don't have to rely on foreign aid, but we also are going to continue using gas as a path to it. The Europeans are going to make gas green. We're waiting on the Americans to do the same. So financing can come into gas projects and we really move forward. So gas is going to be part of our green. And going into Cape Town during Africa Energy Week, we are going to have something really amazing, because we've seen a lot of funding coming our way and coming a lot of Africans looking at that. And we need to really drive that. This is no time for us to stand idle by. We need to drive business. But I'll leave you with this. We need to create an enabling environment. We need to promote free markets, limited government, low taxes, create an environment and really focus on transparency and ensure that we can really create that environment that allows for these investments to come in and for investments to grow. There's no reason waiting 2 years to approve a project. There's no reason getting investors getting stuck begging government bureaucrats on getting projects going. We need to cut that, and we need to really focus on business and drive that. Young people, business people are not going to sit idle by and wait. So we got some house cleaning to do, So now it's times when we have to look at the mirror, and mirrors are not just to reflect what you see, mirrors are to correct what we see.
Now that you mentioned trade, place the African energy industry, Ayuk, for me, within the context of the AFCFTA, which enters its second year this month on the 1st of January. How do we integrate? When we talk about trade, oftentimes we talk about small and medium enterprises, light manufacturing, and what have you. Where is the place of the Africa's energy market in the AFCFTA?
It is huge. And that's what we have to define and really push forward. You imagine us taking Africa energy, LNG across Africa. So you could move LNG across Africa and power Africa. You imagine taking green ammonia out of hydrogen that can be developed and build local market fertilizers, cross-border, cut out tariffs, cut out all these customs and duties that hold back trade from moving forward. The energy sector stands to benefit more. What we've seen in the past has always been Africa has been an export industry where you take out the gas, the crude, you take out the gas, export into Asia and receive food finished products. This is an amazing, amazing act that would allow us to be able to refine products cleaner, better, using Africa, cheaper, cost-effective, and really drive an African energy revolution that would power Africa, but also gas that would really create gas-to-power programs through the AFTA and really create Africa energy jobs. And then we got to defend our natural resource like a junkyard dog in the face of a hurricane, because we have the tools right now to move that. And this is just where the AFTA really matters. But we need to get the politicians out of the way. I think the politicians are really standing in the way of this moving forward. Don't forget, we still have to deal with visa issues. There is no reason why it's easy for a European to travel in more African countries than an African traveling within Africa. And that is just wrong. It's a moral responsibility that we have to take, and we have to change that. We have to drive that issue very strong and very hard. But the AFTA, it's beautiful. We will drive that. We need to benefit from that because that is the best thing. 300 million people in Southern Africa. Imagine what Mozambique's gas can do for them instead of them being an import market looking for gas out of Qatar and Russia and everything. Look at West Africa. We had a great infrastructure around the West Africa gas pipeline. That was pre-AFTA. Right now, you're going to cut down tariffs and move forward. But you also need to, in the spirit of AFTA, you need to look at some of the cross-border issues that we're not doing. Look at what Senegal did by cutting a deal with Mauritania on the SNE, and that moved forward. There is no reason why Equatorial Guinea and Cameroon cannot cut a deal on a Tinde project or Yolanda projects. There's no reason why we're still having one of the most dangerous job-killing regulations with Forex in the Central African area, CEMAC. It's just going to drive a lot of oil companies away. So the AFTA matters. How we implement it, how we drive it is going to really matter. But I can tell you this from the African Energy Chamber. We're going to be a voice for business. We are going to be driving politicians and bureaucrats to implement this and really drive this industry, because when it benefits the industry, it benefits the everyday, the forgotten African that has been forgotten in this industry.
Well, Ayuk, thank you so much. We've got to leave you with some energy for the night. Our regards to the Madam of the House, Ayuk, the Executive Chairman at the African Energy Chamber. Thank you so much, and see you next time.